Hello, everybody. So, if you haven't guessed by what you see here on the screen, we're talking about circles today. We need to talk about circles so when we get to the 3D stuff, we can deal with cylinders and cones, things that have circles in them. So, I want to show you a few things within the circle, talk about it, and then we'll look at some notes and do some example problems where we talk about circumference and area. And hopefully you'll recall we talked just a little bit about this right before we all had to start the e-learning. We celebrated Pi Day. So we got our circle. No corners, no vertices, nothing like that like we've talked about previously. Instead, we have roundness and we have a couple special segments. One of them we call the diameter. It is the distance all the way across the circle at its widest point. It's the longest segment through the circle. Okay, then when we have the diameter, if I take that apart, take that off, it's the fun of this, you'll notice I have something that looks like a diameter, but if you can see, it's got two pieces called a radius. A radius is half of a diameter. So here's my whole diameter, and you'll notice the radius is half of that. The purple piece is half of the red piece. So 2 radii make up a diameter. And a diameter goes from the center out to the side of the circle. And you can have them go all the way around. Doesn't matter. All right, now we're going to keep that information in mind as we look at a few more pieces of information about a circle. Okay, so we've got our picture here of the circle. And we talk about the diameter and the radius and of course the center, the thing that's in the middle, the point that's in the middle. And we said here, the diameter. It is the line segment that passes through the center of the circle or a sphere. So this would also be true for a 3D shape and has endpoints on the circle or the sphere. It's the longest segment. Then we have our radius. It's the line segment from the center of the circle out to the side of any point on the circle, or once again, the sphere. It's half of the diameter. And if we're going to talk about the plural, so more than one radius, we don't say radiuses, by the way. That sounds kind of silly. We say radii, R-A-D-I-I. All right, now, circles, we have to talk about the distance around, or the perimeter of the circle is a special name. It is called the circumference, and it's represented with the letter C. 2 ways we can find this. We can say it's pi times the diameter. We'll talk a little bit more about pi here in just a second. Or circumference equals 2 times pi times r. Because remember, how many radii are there in a diameter? There are 2 of them. And then we use pi, a special number, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Then you got area of the circle, represented with A, just like the other stuff. And we say it's pi times the radius squared. Notice you have to use the radius. There's only one formula here to use. Now lastly, if you're saying, well, I don't remember exactly, what was pi? Well, it's a Greek letter, 16th letter of the Greek alphabet. If you're spelling it out, it's Pi, not P-I-E, but Pi. And it's a ratio, the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So pi is equal to the circumference, the distance around the circle, divided by the distance across the circle. And it's the same for every circle. And it's what we call an irrational number, a number that does not ever end and it doesn't repeat. And it's approximately 3.14. It goes on infinitely. But when we're going to do our calculations, for now, we're going to use 3.14. All right, now we're going to take all this information and we are going to use it to solve a couple of problems. So here we go. Pull in the notes. And here we go. We're going to practice. Now, sometimes you're going to see things, you may see something listed as solve in terms of pi, which would mean we would leave the Greek letter pi in the answer. I'm going to take that out and we're just going to use 3.14 over and over again because that's what you're going to most commonly see at this point in your academics. Now, eventually, yes, you're going to be told to regularly leave pi in the answer to give us what we say is the most accurate answer. Now, let's take a look at this first problem. You're going to have to read carefully in your problems to make sure you are doing exactly what is asked. Here, we're actually going to start with area first because we have one formula to use. Remember, area is equal to pi r squared. So if we have a wheel with a radius of 8 inches, what is the area? You need to draw yourself a little picture. Here's my wheel. There's my radius. We'll make it all the way out to the side. And we say it's 8 inches. Now, each time here, just to get the practice of understanding how the radius and diameter are related, we're going to write them both down. It said the radius was 8 inches. So that means our diameter is 2 times that, or 16 inches. Notice my radius and diameter, I just used the regular units. When we get to area, remember all area is inches, or units squared, whatever it is, inches, feet, centimeters, whatever. So now let's find our area. It's equal to pi, we're going to use 3.14, times our radius, which is 8, squared. Now, remember back at the beginning of the year we talked about order of operations. We did it then because we have to use it now. Order of operations says we need to do our exponents first. So we're going to square our radius. I'm just going to write this underneath. 3.14 times 64, because 8 times 8 is 64. And then if you want to do your final calculation, and you want to use your calculator to save yourself a little bit of time, you may. And you should find out 3.14 times 64 is 200.96. And we've got to put units on there. It's area, it's inches squared. And that's your final answer. The area of the wheel, that's 8 inches for a radius, its area is 200.96 inches squared. And don't round at this point, because you're only going to end up with 2 decimal places for an answer in your answer. So just leave it exactly as you're given in your answer. That will make it your answer that much more accurate. Now, let's look at number 2. The diameter of a quarter is 6 centimeters. What's the area? So here's my quarter. It says my diameter is 6 centimeters. Remember, diameter is the distance across. So if my diameter is 6 centimeters, what's my radius? Hopefully you're saying 3 centimeters. And then, how do we find the area? Which one are we using? We've got to use our radius. And remember, our radius when we square it is not the number times 2, it's the number times itself. So we're going to do 3.14 times 3 squared. What's 3 squared? That's right, it's 9. So what's 3.14 times 9? Well, figure it out. I guess it's going to be a little more than 27 since 3 times 9 is 27. And we have a little more than 3. And I'm correct. Hopefully you are too. And you got 28.26. What units? Oh, that's right. Centimeters squared. It's area. Okay, now let's take a look. We've got circumference next. Remember, circumference is distance around the circle. It's like the perimeter. So, once again, we're not going to solve in terms of pi. We'll just use 3.14. I think that'll be easier. And we're going to talk about the diameter of an apple pie being 7 inches. Oh, that sounds yummy right now. Here's my apple pie. And it said the diameter was 7 inches. By the way, when you draw your circle, you can put your diameter and radius any way you want as long as it starts at as long as the center of the circle is included. So if my diameter is 7 inches, what is my radius? That's right, 3.5 inches. Now for circumference, we're going to have 2 ways we can solve. And I'll do both. You pick which way you want to do. Remember, we have the choice of saying circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Well, let's start here. Pi times diameter. 3.14 times 7. So this is the one where we're going to use pi times diameter. What's 3.14 times 7? I'm going to say it's something a little more than 21. 21.98 inches. Yep, inches. Okay. Notice I didn't square it. Why didn't I square it? That's right. Not because it's not area. Perimeter type problems, you're just adding up side lengths essentially. So you don't square it. Now let's see if we did this the other way. If we did 2 pi r, would we get the same answer? Let's see. 2 times 3.14 times, this time we'll use our radius, 3.1 or 3.5. Sorry, that's getting a little slanted. I ran out of space. 2 times 3.14 times 3.5. Look at that. 21.98 inches. If it's easier for you to remember that when you're working with circles, you have to just use the radius, and you want to focus on area being pi r squared and circumference 2 pi r, and just always work with radius, that's fine. If you want to use diameter and use pi times diameter for the circumference, that is also fine. It's up to you. All right, let's look at a couple more examples here quickly. Okay, circumference. We're going to use 3.14. The radius of a clock is 6.5 inches. What's the circumference? All right, here's my clock. So the radius is 6.5 inches. So we'll write that there. What's the diameter? That's right, it's 13 inches. So we can do this 2 ways again. We'll do pi times diameter. So we'll do 3.14 times 13. And really when we do that, we've just done the 2 times the radius, so just doing the work early. What is 3.14 times 13? 40.28 inches. Now let's try it the other way. Let's go 2 times pi 3.14 times 6.5. Let's see what we get. 2 times 3.14 times 6.5 is 40.28. I'm glad we got the same answer both times. We'd be in trouble if we didn't. All right, now one more problem. And actually I'm going to add a little bit to, I'm going to adjust this one. It says, what is the area of the circle? Solve in terms of pi. We're not going to do that. We're going to find the area, and we're going to find the circumference. So let's find the circumference too. First, we notice we have the radius of 13. If the radius is 13, what is the diameter equal to? That's right, 26 meters. First, let's find the area since that's what they asked for. Area is equal to pi, so we're going to use 3.14 times our radius squared, 13 squared. What's 13 squared? That's right, it's 169. 3.14 times 169. And what do you get? 530.66 meters squared. So that's one answer. Now let's look at circumference. We'll go write that, 2 pi r there. All right, so we can do circumference equals pi times diameter over here. We'll do that one first. And we'll say 3.14 times 26. Let's see what we get. 3.14 times 26 is 81.64 meters. Remember, we don't need to do unit squared because it's just like a perimeter. Or let's try 2 pi r. We'll try it that way. 2 times pi, 3.14 times the radius, 13, 2 pi r. 2 times 3.14 times 13 equals 81.64 meters again. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you find the circumference and the area of circles. Happy practicing!